So, in part 10 of What is Egypt Hiding, I'll continue with what we left in part 9. Of course, we talked about the word for raising a child, which is rera, okay, represented by the consonants RR in ancient Egyptian. All right, so now let's examine, okay, see that little cute baby? I think the baby's Masai. Okay, so let's discuss the name for a child in ancient Egyptian, okay, represented by the consonantal block of MS. All right, so now excuse me, using the consonantal block, as you can see up there, MS is the name for a child. Of course, when Jesus, Mary and Joseph came into Egypt, Jesus was what? A child, okay, represented by the consonants MS, all right, of which you will readily find parallels in Bantu, okay. Now, Fergus Sherman puts out the parallel that he finds being that the S will undergo a phonetic variation and become a Z. So the Swahili word zao or mizao or mzao is really an offspring. That's what I want to say. It's an offspring. All right. Now that can also be used for crop. So yeah, I definitely do agree with that. But I will add on to what Fergus Sherman has. Okay. Now, in the Ekegusi Bantu language, of course, that I speak, the word for a child, okay, a boy who has not undergone the rites of circumcision, okay, the name for a boy who has not undergone the rites of circumcision is Moisia or Moisi. Moisi or Moisia. Again, same consonants, MS. You will find that in the Kinyakyusa Bantu language, the word doesn't really, it's just a little different from Ekegusi. Not that different. Moisi in Kinyakyusa Bantu found in Tanzania, they say Moisa. Again, same consonants. You see what I'm saying? So it looks like these ancient Egyptian language that they call Afro-Asiatic needs to be revised again. I mean, other people have done it, like Dr. Theophilo Benga. He's done that. Fergus Sherman, gorgeous work. Dr. Kipkoech, Arab Sambu. But I feel like, oh my God, we need more. We don't even have, that many Egyptologists. All right? So again, we go back to the motherland. The word seems to have a Bantu inclination. All right? So also in the Ekegusi language, okay, the word that you give your child, okay, rather the name you give your child for a child who is actually named after your father, so that you don't have to call your father's name when you're calling him, you call that child Mose, okay? Mose just means father. Okay, but it's usually a name also given to little boys. All right, but then when we go to the other consonantal block that has MS, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so now let's move on to the next term, okay, that will describe a child. Okay, the first one is MS, which I just say is Moisi or Moicha, depending on how you say. Even Moso, I've had some Bantu say Moso for boy. All right, let's move over to the next one, all right, which is represented by the consonants MSWT, okay, Muswat. I'll just call it Muswat, okay. Now, Fergus Sherman compares this word to the Swahili word Mzao Wote, meaning all the offspring, Mzao Wote. So that's the parallel he does find for the word Muswat, okay. And that same word, Moswat, is also used, I believe, in a unisex way. You will see again down there, Moswat, meaning a girl child. Do you see that? Moswat in ancient Egyptian not only means a child, but it also means a girl child. Now, my breakdown is very different from Fergus Sherman, so I'm just not copy-pasting. But I'm grateful for Farga Shaman for definitely bringing this out to the light. Because I don't know if there is another writer who really talks about the parallels between Bantu and ancient Egyptian. Because they work really hard to deny us that identity. Okay? Now let me show you something. Okay? With the word Muswat. Mine's just a little different from Fergus. It is the Ekegusi word and Kuria word. So, Kikuria Bantu and Ekegusi word. The word is Muswati. Doesn't change. Muswat, ancient Egyptian, Muswati. Ekegusi Bantu and Kuria Bantu. You see that? Now, there are variations of that pronunciation. Some people say Musvati. Some say Musubati. Some say, when I talk to my dad, he says that the traditional one is Muswati. Okay? Interesting. Now, even the name for girl child still connects to Kibantu. I'm just wondering who these elite Egyptians are. But if they can show me in their language that Mswati means a child, okay, or a girl child, I'd be more than happy to listen to it. I love history and I love education, all right? Now, even with the word Muswat, showing that, you know, this is the name for a girl, okay? So I'm going to show you something here. So, when Moses' baby sister was running to the princess, all right, to tell her, I know a good nurse for you. So, Miriam was called a Muswati. Now, in Ekewusi, Muswati doesn't just mean a child. It means a girl child, it means a daughter, it means a lady, it means a woman. It's actually the more dignified term for a woman. Now, my dad used to call me, one of my nicknames is Muswati Umwabo Daddy or Muswati Umwabo Tata. What does that mean? Muswati Umwabo Tata just means father's sister. Why? Because I was named after his sister. How is it that I have ancient Egyptian in my language? If we didn't live in Egypt and migrate out of Egypt, just like our people have been telling y'all. Okay? But then you do have phonies that are keeping the real Egyptian culture and saying it's theirs. Ain't that funny? Now, again, remembering the story of Moses, remember that because Moses was adopted by the Egyptian princess at that time, he was then raised, naturally, as a prince in ancient Egypt. Okay? So he was adopted. He lived the royal life, went to the royal schools. He had the best life. All right? So let's examine what the name for a prince is. Okay? All right. So here goes the second block. Again, consonantal block. The first one, MS, represented a child. Remember we talked about it. The second one now, which is MS, of course, it looks like it shows a man holding a rod. All right? It means a chief or a prince. Okay? Now, within African meeting, look at the elders or somebody was a title. You can never go into a meeting without a rod or a staff. Okay? So, funny that even the hieroglyphs have that representation. Very Bantu in itself. Maybe even just African in general. Because even the Nilotes do that and the Kushites do that. So, remember how I told you that in Ekewusi, when you name a child after father, it's a respectable word for saying father, so you don't have to call your father by his name. Mose. Mose means, you know, child, you know, a respectable name for father or child named after father. It's still a respectable term for father. All right? Also in Ekewusi Bantu, which Fergus Shaman points out, Mzee is an elder. Now, Mzee doesn't just mean elder. Also, somebody with a rank will be given the title of Mzee. Alright? So, look at how these Bantu parallels don't lie. So, it looks like the Prince of Egypt was speaking a Bantu-like language. Next week on Part 10, not next week, but maybe a few days, we will speak about Part 10 with further parallels. Alright? Don't let anybody lie.